One of the greatest honors of my life was being able to go to Moscow and meet and interview Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And the story behind that's somewhat amazing and astonishing for me, really, because you have to understand that Solzhenitsyn had basically banned all Western journalists or writers from his presence. They treated him so badly, he said, well, I'm not talking to any of you again. So I don't think he'd spoken to a Western writer for about 10 years when I write him out of the blue from England. And I'd only published one book at the time, my biography of G.K. Chesterton. And I wrote to him and said that I didn't think that any of the previous biographies of him, the existing biographies of him, had paid due attention to the centrality of his Orthodox faith to his life and beliefs and works. So I'd like to write a biography which would do that. And then by way of a CV, the only thing I had to say was I'd written a biography of G.K. Chesterton. So I send this off, and I don't even remember now where I sent it to and how it got to Solzhenitsyn. But anyway, I sent this and not expecting to receive a reply, of course. And I thought, well, maybe the best case scenario is a thanks but no thanks signed by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, in which case I'll frame it, put it on my wall. And, so that was the best I was hoping for. So imagine my surprise when he writes back and says, yes, that he would cooperate with my writing of the biography that I mentioned, and that I should make arrangements to come to Moscow to interview him. And he introduced me to two of his sons who speak fluent English, asking me to use those as intermediaries. So I was obviously astonished. So waving this letter from Solzhenitsyn, I go down to HarperCollins with my publisher at the time in London. I wave this letter in front of them and say, you have to give me a contract to write this book, and you have to give me an extra £10,000 because I can't afford to go to Moscow unless you do. They looked at it and they were as astonished as I was, and they said, no problem. Of course, the mystery for me was, why would he say yes? I thought, but he had to agree that the previous biographies had not paid due attention to his Orthodox beliefs. Clearly. But still, why me? I mean, I've written only one book, But when I get to Moscow and I go to his house out in the countryside in the middle of pine woods, very beautiful. Before he comes down, his wife takes me to another room and shows me a bookcase. And the top shelf of the bookcase is the Ignatius collected works of G.K. Chesterton. He made a point of showing me that. So Chesterton was the magic word that got me, if you like, the key to Solzhenitsyn's presence.